Hey guys, Jeremy here. I wanted to do this video. I don't really know why, but I wanted to talk about Jurassic World again. But really I just wanted to do one long talk about it, so I'm not going to do as much editing through this as I would. But I really want to just bring up some points. Really all I'm going to do is kind of a more elongated review of what I did before, going from positive to negative and back and forth with some spoilers, so that's something. If you haven't seen the movie yet, do not watch this. Or if you don't care to watch the movie, then watch this. So the first thing I will say that really niggled me about the film right off the bat was the fact that when the egg opens at the beginning, there is a hand that pops out, this is obviously the Adonis Rex, its origin, but it's a CG hand. And I was like, really? You couldn't have done that with a prosthetic? I mentioned that in my review, but don't worry, I'm gonna... So right at the very beginning, I started having my feeling of what I was walking into. I don't know why, but ever since I've watched Jurassic Park 1 and 2, I've been like, I really don't think they should touch it anymore. 3 was an absolute wreck. I don't think you really should touch the stuff anymore. I just find that anytime Spielberg produced something, it's not that great. Not to say that what he hasn't produced isn't, like, great, but the thing is, if Spielberg is producing a Jurassic Park movie, if he's in cahoots with its making, why isn't he just directing it himself? Come on, man. You're right there. Like, haven't you noticed that you producing the Transformers movie didn't really work out to them being anywhere great in terms of storytelling? So that was something that was kind of unfortunate. But the thing that I actually like is how the movie starts with the kids. I actually did like that, mainly because of the bird that puts its foot into the ground. You think, whoa, it's a big monster. It turns out to just be a bird. That's two awesome homages to the first film, with just the whole Tyrannosaurus Rex pounding into the ground with the water cup shaking. Also, the birds in general, because that was what Alan Grant was talking about at the beginning of Jurassic Park 1, with a claw and whatnot. So when that I actually liked, and I actually didn't mind the kids, well, at least the younger one at first. The only thing that kind of weirded me out, the whole thing, was why these kids were being sent there in the first place. Why were they going without their parents? Why were the parents going? And then later you figure out that they're going through a divorce. It's like, okay, I understand that. So are you sending them to your sister so she can watch your kids while you guys go through all the lawyer stuff? Which actually, yeah, at one point when she was crying on the phone, now I'm just thinking about it, they were in a room with lawyers. So that makes sense now. So actually, I didn't mind the kids. The only thing... And I really like the beginning of the movie with the girl, and the dad's like, "Yeah, don't worry, son, you're not going off to war." I thought that part was hilarious. The only thing that I couldn't stand about that older kid is how bored he was. Again, this goes back to the whole premise of the movie not making really any sense, that the fact that this park has only been open for 10 years, and people are like, "Oh yeah, just dinosaurs, whatever." Would you get bored of dinosaurs? Like, zoos have been open for how many freaking years? You could talk about this more from a financial standpoint. The fact that this isn't on an island, it must cost thousands of dollars to go here. This isn't like... The closest you could say is like going to Hawaii, except Hawaii is an attraction. And so that's something I can understand. Also, just... the whole idea of having 22,000 people in one area and really having, you have the rides and everything, okay, but literally from an architecture point of view, there was just that one main strip. Like, I don't know where everyone was staying. Like, we showed a hotel room, but where the hell were 22,000 people staying? And, why were all of them in the streets? Why were they in the hotel rooms or something? But, as I said earlier in my review today, the the rides were awesome. Some of them look so cool. Like one of my favorite ones, which was really strange for me, was the one where they're in the water and they're going down the creek and there's the Stegosaurus like looking into the water. That was so cool. I would love to do that. And then the ball too, what was actually so sweet is I thought it was on a rails, but when the kids like moving the joystick, I was like, fudge yes. Not only am I moving about all these dinosaurs, but at the same time I am moving I'm driving it. But on a safety thing, that could totally backfire with a kid going right underneath a brontosaurus's foot. Boom! Crush kids. So yeah, this all comes back again to something I said earlier this morning, that the whole premise of the movie, that these guys haven't screwed up in 10 years, is mind-blowing. They're freaking idiots. A lot of them. Now, I like the guy, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name, I can't remember it, but the guy who was the owner of the park, who was like, oh, you know, we've done this to, I have not put all of this work into making John Hammond's dream a reality just for some attraction and money. So, he was cool, and when he's in the helicopter, he's like, did your general ever fly into battle with you? That was really funny. But just how quickly everything escalates, and just when InGen takes over, like I wish there had been 1 minute of exposition explaining the relationship between the guy's money, the millionaire, the park being alive, and InGen's their whole connection with it. Another thing that actually I really wanted to know is who on earth funded it. Like, okay, he said, yeah, the millionaire guy said that, sure, we'll make John Hammond's park a reality. How on earth would you get the funding or the backers to do such a thing, considering that the previous 2 expeditions, technically the first one is like, you know, the first going there, and the second film is another expedition. Both of those were complete and utter failures and resulted in hundreds of deaths. Shush. How on earth could you put that toward, like, that was something I wish, again, 2 minutes of exposition or something, or if even just a minute to explain, 1 line of dialogue to explain how on earth the hell you got this park off the ground. So then going back to the positives, I really liked Chris Pratt's character. He was funny, but he was stern. He was a hard ass. He was cool, and he was funny. Like the scene where he was showing off, like, they've animals got to eat, they got to hunt, they got to, like, that was typical Chris Pratt. But later on, when the danger started, he actually started, he was very serious. So he had a little bit of humor about him, but he was serious. And I had some nigglies about him being Indiana Jones, possibly, but he proved it here. Like, he proved he could do the humor. He would obviously have a younger edge on him, and he wouldn't have the entire grit edge that Harrison Ford had in the Indiana Jones movies, but, it's a different version, but it's close, so I gave him that. Then Bryce Dallas Howard, at first she was kind of very rigid, and something that my friend pointed out, like I pointed out, how in hell has she been running around with those shoes? And he says, you know what, they pretty much made a joke of it, and they basically kept those shoes just for the silly scene where she's running away from the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Which, by the way, is probably my favorite damn scene. It's not the fight. Like, the fight was awesome, but like right when they're like, open paddock 9, I was like, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Tyrannosaurus Rex. And then it comes out of the shadows. That was a perfect shot. Now, Colin Trevorrow, he did an okay job with this movie. Sure, it wasn't Spielberg, but that shot, dude, that one was a money shot. That was awesome. But then going back to the construction of the park, why on earth is the Tyrannosaurus Rex right down on Main Street? Why? I just kind of wonder why it would be there. Because that's dangerous. You don't have any of the... You have, like, you have the Tyrannosaurus Rex right next to all the Ben and Jerry's and all the ad placements and everything, and then the baby little dinosaurs. The thing's gonna be damn hungry. You can smell them, damn it. So I thought it was kind of weird. Also, the fact that he's there, the Tyrannosaurus Rex is there, despite the fact that they had to go on the track, on the train, or to wherever to see the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and he ate the goat. So that was kind of a little bit weird. Another thing that a lot of people kind of have been complaining about with this movie is that there's too many ad placements. You know what? In comparison to Man of Steel, I thought it was okay. You know, okay, you were like every time they showed Main Street, there was a bunch of ads like Ben and Jerry's and whatnot on the side. I just keep remembering Ben and Jerry's, but you know, I was like, okay, that's understandable. This is a park. You know, there's a lot of money in this movie. And then the Mercedes, like, gosh, okay, I admit the Mercedes symbol, like, it was like there was a shot where it just literally like boom, Mercedes symbol right in your face. It's like, oh, okay. Good for you, Mercedes. But I don't know the name of the cars, but my car friend said those are some damn good off-road vehicles, so I don't blame him for that. But going back, basically the one thing this movie didn't have that Spielberg has been great for doing, and also what the original first film and even the second film technically had, is a great character basis. And sure, Chris Pratt's character is great and Bryce Dallas Howard's character is okay, but everyone else is just such a bad character. It's so odd how lacking of character there is in this movie. The kids have like a decent relationship. The older one, I want to smack him in the head every time I see him. He's like, oh, whatever, dinosaurs, oh, girls. Which was an interesting point, talking about how ridiculously redundant the today's generation is, and how much attention, how much media feed we need, and just how real stuff just isn't cool anymore. But I like that he warmed up, obviously, so I thought the brothers were good. Actually, I didn't think their story was useless, which is odd because a lot of people have, and I understand why people would say it's useless, but I feel that they are the catalyst to what happens with everything. They are the threat, which, again, you probably could have worked it in better, but I understand. We didn't want to see the exact same thing again, right? Because if Chris Pratt had been with these kids then, and then everything went bad and they got lost, it would have been freaking Jurassic Park 1 all over again. Another thing that's very interesting about this movie is how small the island seems. Yeah, in the first one, the island seemed massive and expansive, especially the second one too, just absolutely huge. In this one, it's small. Very small. I found that very odd. Did you guys notice that? It just seemed very tiny to me. But this, going back on positives, I thought that all the build-up towards the final finale was awesome. It was so cool just seeing the raptors running along with Chris Pratt, and then when they started talking to the Anonymous, and then it turned around and looked at them, and you're like, oh shit, that was awesome. Even though it was a rendition of the scene where the Anonymous killed all the guys all over again, very alien-esque. And then going back to this guy, Vincent Cascal, this guy sucked. He's awful in this movie. Awful. He's so bad. He's like, oh yeah, military. That's what we need. We need raptors to take out Al Qaeda. It's like, really? Okay, he didn't say Al Qaeda, but he was talking about tunnels and everything. So obviously you want to use them in the Middle East, which would work. But then how do you feed these things? Anyway, again, it just seems so silly. Like, this guy was so stereotyped in this movie, but his death was so satisfying. When he has the hand out, I was like, oh, eat it, and he did. I was like, ah! So that was great. And then the finale too. Right when the Tyrannosaurus got my buddy and I were making jokes. We were calling the Tyrannosaurus and the Velociraptor Brosauruses, because they're like, yeah man, bro fist, or bro talon, or whatever. But when they're fighting the Anonymous, and then it gets pushed to the water, and I was like, oh, and then then the water thing came out and bit it and dragged it back down. That was awesome. Some of the deaths in this, seeing it bite it down reminded me of the assistant who got brutally killed. Like, she's being dunked and bitten by the pterodactyl, and then she gets eaten by the water monster as it's biting on the pterodactyl. So technically, she didn't even get bit; she just got swallowed. So she got Moby Dick. So, sorry, not Moby Dick. She got who's the one in the Bible who went into the whale? I know Pinocchio went in the whale. Anyway, so that's it. Yeah, that part was awesome. And so, kind of in this circumference, this has just been a bunch of random thoughts. But really, Jurassic World is not obviously as good as Jurassic Park. It's definitely got a lot of flaws with it. A lot. And it doesn't have that same magic that Steven Spielberg did. And one thing that people have to say is you have to turn off your brain for this. I don't think you have to. It definitely would. It's not, we're not talking Transformers stupid here, but it's definitely not something that really pushes the imagination. It visually, it delivers visually, it delivers action-wise, but if people are going in expecting this to be Jurassic Park 1, no, it's not. It's not going to be. That's the thing that I have to argue with a few critics, is they're like, oh, it's not as good as the first one. It's like, obviously, dude, it's not. This movie isn't trying to be the first film. It's obviously trying to differentiate itself while pay homage at the same time. And for a film that of this caliber, of this kind of this material, it did decent. I think it did a good job at differentiating itself, yet still being true and respectful to the source material. So I think it was great. I really would have been interested to see what Michael Crichton would have thought of this. Well, mainly the third film, certainly. Well, he did. Technically, he did watch it. But I would have liked to have seen him come back to this and just be a side associate. But unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. So I would have been interested, because that man had some really cool ideas. He had some really imaginative things. But anyway, so yeah, if you guys are... I had the... Probably one reason why I'm positive about this movie is because I had indefinitely low expectations. I was expecting Jurassic Park 3 all over again, but it was great. Mind you, I have to rewatch 2 and 1 again just to verify my findings, but I think it's better than 2. Maybe. But 2 still has a awesome ending with the velociraptors in the grass. Anyway, guys, that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed this really random talk about this spoiler talk about Jurassic World. Sorry if I kind of go off on a tangent and whatnot, but I really wanted to talk about it. I really wanted to get my voice out about these things that I couldn't tell you in a normal review without spoiling. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the review, and do, talk about what you think about it. What do you think of this movie? What did you guys think of the end result? Also, something I'm going to talk about in the next video is, if you count Ant-Man, technically Ant-Man is the end of the summer blockbuster season. It's really weird, ain't it? In comparison to last year and the year before, we had so many blockbusters throughout all of the summer. This is actually one of the worst blockbuster summers in a... Not one of the worst, but it's one of the lacking. Like, there's some stuff that's coming out in September that I'm excited for. But anyway, guys, that's all for me. Just wondering what you guys think about it. Anyway, that's all for me. See you guys later.